Hello and happy hearthwarming, everyone. I have decided to read a fan fiction in celebration of the holiday. Today's fan fiction will be Darth's Warming Eve. Keep in mind, due to the holiday nature, I may be a little bit sloshed right now, so we're going to see how this works. 'Twas the midmost of winter, and into the town was a place where laughter and cheer could be found. Ponies roamed through the streets with smiles on their faces, seeing bakeries, toy stores, and other neat places. They dashed store to store as quick as it could be in search of some gifts to put under the tree. They bought toys for their kids such as frisbees and jump ropes, slinkies and robots, as well as bath soaps. Mayor Mare looked around at the ponies and smirked, thanking Celestia that this was how the economy worked. Buyers went off on their spending, the markets were storming, but there was much more to prepare for this year's hearthwarming. Princess Twilight was out for a mid-morning stroll, smiling to herself as the bells began to toll. She and her friends cantered all down the street, bringing tidings of joy to every pony they'd greet. The ponies waved back to Princess Twilight's relief, as the holiday spirit had banished their grief. But not everyone was happy to Twilight's surprise, for before her was a filly with tears in her eyes. She sat on the curb, something clearly eating at her. So Twilight trotted towards her to see what was the matter. "Why, hello, little girl," she said, looking down. "What cause do you have to wear such a frown?" She looked to the princess and said with a sniff, "I don't have any friends to give any gifts." Twilight smiled and said, "Now there's no need to cry. You can join our patrol and walk by my side. Together we can go and spread cheer to this place. Perhaps helping others will put a smile on that face." The filly agreed with a vigorous nod and eagerly leapt to the side of the broad. And so they continued spreading joy where they could, as of the filly's sad feelings turned good. They traveled the town and the joy stayed the same. But that was the moment that the Empire came. The ponies stopped in their tracks and looked to the heavens and watched in horror as Imperial ships descended. TIE fighters rained down from the sky at an angle, launching out of the Star Destroyer, the mighty Triangle. An Imperial shuttle descended out of the air and landed in the middle of Ponyville Square. Twilight was awestruck. Pinkie Pie had a fit. Rarity fainted and Rainbow Dash lost all her shit. "I don't believe my eyes," said Applejack the farmer, as out of the ship emerged troopers in ghostly white armor. Then out of the shuttle came a man so unpleasant who stared at the ponies with their toys and their presents. His suit was black as his soul was inside. His heart gave no love, only hatred it supplied. Then the man began to speak, with his voice booming loud, to the frightful little ponies that were all in the crowd. He said, "Hear my words, ponies, and quiver with fear, for I know that the day of hearthwarming draws near. It brings you great joy to share these toys and presents, but this simply is unfitting for such lowly presents." He shook his fist in the air with a motion so perturbing. "I find your lack of sorrow and gloom quite disturbing. You intend to spread cheer with gifts you have now, and that is something I simply cannot allow. So I am taking these gifts, and I'm taking your trees, for I am bringing an end to this festive disease." Then he signaled his troops with a lethal intention, and they pointed their guns at the pony's direction. They fired into the crowd as Darth lowered his fist, but not a pony was harmed, for their shots had all missed. The Sith watched his troops as they stormed through the village, stealing decorations, toys, and anything they could pillage. The stormtroopers returned, and with a motion not subtle, they stuffed all the decorations and gifts in the shuttle. There would be no celebration like the ones in the past, for this year had stolen hearthwarming at last. But something was wrong. He felt so dejected. Stealing the holidays brought him less joy than expected. He'd accomplished his mission, but he couldn't tell why he felt so alone and empty inside. He'd had everything that he wanted and the pony's expense, but he still wasn't happy. It didn't make sense. Then he felt something stranger, a tug at his leg. He looked down and saw a filly who started to beg. "Excuse me, misters," she said with a frown. "Why have you stolen the gifts from every pony in town?" He stared at the girl and then said to himself, "I am claiming these toys and these gifts for myself." But the little girl heard him and became quite confused. "But that's not how toys are supposed to be used. They are meant to be given to loved ones and with care. For the best gift of all is the one you can share." Vader looked down at her sadly and then said with a sigh, "I don't have anyone that will stand by my side. Not one companion, not a single ally. For the only friends that I have are myself, and I." The filly gasped at his words, and she pitied his sorrow. For he didn't have friends to share heartwarming with tomorrow. They both had no friends. She was all alone too. It was then that she realized what Princess Twilight would do. It was the only solution that she could comprehend. She looked up at him and said, "I'll be your friend." He looked at the girl and saw a smile was forming. "Tomorrow you and I can share this heartwarming." He looked at her sadly and said, "I'm afraid it can't be, for I've stolen every ornament, present, and tree. There won't be a heartwarming this year, I'm afraid." But the girl shook her head and began to explain. "Heartwarming's not about what's under the tree. It's about the connection between you and me. It's about building a friendship that the whole world can share and feeding its fire with all the love we can spare. So please, Mr. Vader," she spoke from her heart, "please don't tear our friendship apart." She gave him a hug with the kindness unsuppressed, and a strange tingling feeling made its way to Darth's chest. Something happened to him that he could not ignore, for he felt something inside that he had never felt before. It was love that he felt. It was love through and through. She had sparked something in him. He knew this to be true. So in an instant they dashed to a shuttle so quick, then turned on all systems and gave the engines a kick. They flew into town and landed back in the square, and then brought out the gifts with the greatest of care. He returned every gift at the ponies with glee. Then he pulled out the ornaments and then lastly the tree. Some faces were puzzled and others were stony. As he spoke to the crowd, "Gather round, every pony. I'm sorry to say that I've made quite a great error by stealing these gifts and not spreading nothing but terror. But today I am hoping to bring that to an end. Can you all find it in your hearts to forgive me, my friends?" The ponies all cheered, much to Lord Vader's surprise, and each pony embraced him with joy in their eyes. A celebration began with the joy he ignited, and for once in his life Darth Vader felt delighted. It surprised him at first how his mood had changed, and he felt even better with every gift he exchanged. The last pony he greeted that day was a filly. He knelt down beside her with an expression so silly. He said, "I can never repay you enough for this favor, but here is my gift to you, your very own lightsaber." She accepted the gift and returned an embrace. A hug that brought tears of joy to Darth's face, for Vader had learned quite a lesson indeed, that his anger and power was nothing than a weed. The key to happiness, he learned this day, was to love all your neighbors in the old pony way. And I hope you have a very happy, heartwarming, or Christmas, or Hanukkah, or Kwanzaa, or whatever you may celebrate this year. This is Sora Kieran signing off. Good night.